So welcome to session 2 today of patron blocks, librarian assigned and system assigned, two different types of blocks. Today we're going to be using the PowerPoint slightly more than we usually do. We will be predominantly inside Alma showing the functionality and creating blocks and attributing blocks to patrons and seeing how they work. However, because there are several tables here that all relate to each other, it's easier to describe that part with the PowerPoint. However, we will be inside Alma most of the time. So we're discussing patron blocks, librarian assigned, and system assigned. That's two different types of blocks. And the librarian assigned, as it states, they're defined by the library, by the institution, and then manually the librarian can assign that block to a patron to prevent, for example, the patron from being able to loan or loan and renew or loan and renew and do hold requests. And then there are also system assigned blocks which occur automatically. For example, if a patron owes more units of currency than he or she is allowed to, or has more loans than he or she is allowed to loan, etc. And those are automatic. So those are the two types of blocks we're going to be discussing today. And we'll be going through the tables, we'll be creating them and attributing to the users. So let's start with the librarian assigned blocks. And let's just jump right in already and define. So we have a table called user block descriptions where we describe the block, we give it actual text. Then we have user block definitions where we define what does that block description do. So let's go take a look at the user block descriptions, which is at configuration menu, fulfillment, patron configurations, user block descriptions. So here we are in Alma, regular standard Alma, same release as everyone's got. Not a different development environment with any special features, standard March 2022 release as you can see. We'll go into configuration. I'm clicking the cog wheel on the bottom left. Then we're in fulfillment. Then under patron configurations, we have the user block descriptions followed by the user block definitions. And let's go define a new user block description. So we'll open the table, we'll click add row, add row. It goes now up to code 13. We could give it any code, again, a code that doesn't exist, but we'll give it code 14 to keep it somewhat organized. And let's say user did not attend the webinar on March 8th. This is a user-defined or library-defined block. And for example, perhaps the library is requiring that patrons attend some kind of an introductory session, training session, something. If they don't attend, they can't loan. So we're saying user didn't attend the webinar today on March 8th. Default value will say no. So we're adding now a description. And add row. There we go. There's our description. That's not going to do anything for us right now because we have to put it in the definitions. All we're doing now is putting it in the description. It's just text standing out there doing nothing. I'm just going to go back in. Here it is. So now we have 14. User did not attend the webinar on March 8th. Now we need to do something with that. Let's head back to the PowerPoint for a moment. So we came here and we defined the new block. Now we're going to the user block definitions. Now here is where we can define what is that description going to do. For example, if a patron has a block with that description, Will he or she be prevented from loaning? If so, we're going to give it a value of 0, 1. If we want to prevent the patron from doing a loan or a renew, we'll give it value 0, 2. And if we want to prevent the patron from doing a loan or a renew or a hold request, we'll give it value 0, 3. So let's pop in and see. Fulfillment, patron configurations, and now the user block definitions. So we've got now 13 blocks, plus we've got this registration block. The ID does not have to be numeric. I'm giving them numeric. It kind of keeps it organized. And let's add a row. Now, under these descriptions, we see the descriptions that we've added already. And here's ours. I just wrote MARC, and I see everything that has MARC in it. If I put just MA, I see everything that has MA in it. So I'll choose the one we just made. I'll give it an ID of 14. It does not need to be the same ID that we gave in the definition, in the descriptions. The type is just for personal use. It has no bearing on the actual functionality unless it would be consortial, which we're not going to talk about now. What we're doing now will work in a member institution of a consortia. We're not going to get into the whole story of defining a cross consortia, etc. in the 1 hour we have. Overrideable, there are 3 different override options. Actually, there's 4 if one of them is none. But to actually have the override, there are 3 options. All, meaning any operator who can do the loan, for example, will also be able to override. Then whether it's a circulation desk manager, circulation desk operator, we've got that in here described. If it's all, then anyone can override it. We're going to see that there'll be a message, patron is blocked, and then there'll be an override. If we say circ desk, it'll only be overrideable by a circulation desk manager. And if we say operator, it'll be overrideable by a circulation desk manager or a circulation desk operator. So let's give it all here. The blocked action, let's give it 3. 3, we said, is loan, renew, and hold. Let's add that row and then we'll take a look. So we're saying general, that's just text for our own use. The description is what we had in the user block descriptions table. We're saying all can override it. We're saying the blocked action is 3, meaning can't loan, can't renew, and can't hold. And save. Let's just go take a look at that. Not that I don't trust that it wasn't properly saved, but let's take a look anyway. User block definitions, here it is. Okay, now back to the PowerPoint. I think we've covered everything in that section. We talked about who can override. We gave it all. We talked about the 1, 2, and 3. 1 can't loan, 2 can't loan or renew, 3 can't loan, renew, or make a hold request. And we said all can override, and now summary, I just said the summary, so we can skip this section. And now let's test it. Let's take a patron. Let's first make sure the patron can loan. Then we're going to give the patron this block. Then we're going to see that he or she can't loan. So let me open up a Word document here so we can keep track of what we're doing here. And we created now a block, which is number 14. It says user did not attend webinar March 8th. And then we gave it block type 03. Excuse all my spelling, meaning the patron should not be able to loan, renew, or make a hold request. Now let's take an item, a patron, loan it, see that it can loan, give the patron the block, see that he or she can't loan. So let's go back into Alma. Let's get a barcode. In fact, I'm going to get 2 barcodes because later we're going to do a limit of how many items a patron can loan. I'll already get the barcodes. So let's say we want lean in, woman work, will to lead. And item in place, we'll take this one. And item in place, we'll take this one. These are our sample barcodes, which we're going to loan. There we go. Now, take this first one. Let's take a patron now, who we'll use as our example. First, we'll make sure everything's okay with the patron, that he or she doesn't have other blocks. Here, blocks, no blocks. If there were blocks, we'd have this indicator. Manage fulfillment activities, no loans. We're good to go. So let's now make sure that we can loan to this patron before we give the block. Because if we go and show the block and say, hey, look, the patron can't loan, maybe he or she couldn't loan also beforehand. So to prove that it's the block that we're attributing that prevents the loan, let's first make sure that this patron can loan. So we'll go to Manage Patron Services and grab this patron and loan the item. No problem, no blocks, everything's good. We'll return to put everything back to how it was. Now we're going to give her a block. So we go into the user. We're attributing a block now manually to the patron, the block that we just made a moment ago. Here's the user, edit. When we go to the blocks tab, add block. Let's get the one we did. User did not attend the webinar on March 8th. Let's not give it an expiration date. That'll mean it's forever until I remove it. And add and close. Now the patron has the block that we gave, that we created in the descriptions, and then we defined it in the definitions. And save. Now the patron has a block. Now let's try to loan. Fulfillment, manage patron services. And the patron is blocked. A moment ago, she wasn't blocked. I attributed that block that we made a moment ago, and now she is blocked. And as you can see, we can override. And the reason that we can override is because we defined the override as all, meaning the circulation desk operator, circulation desk manager, anyone who can make the loan can also override. Okay, let's remove that block just so we can use Anna for our next example. But let's also stop for a moment. This is a good time to stop and see if there are any questions. Actually, before we get to the questions, let me just go back to that PowerPoint and make sure that I covered everything. So testing the system line blocks, we took not 02, we took the one we made now on the spot 14. We defined also overridable by all. We went to the blocks tab of the patron. We clicked the add block. We added the block. We saw that it's there. Then when we went to loan, we saw that there is a block. Okay, so before we jump to the system assigned blocks, let's stop. I'll go into the chat and let's see if there's any questions. Any questions from anybody? Don't see any questions from anybody. Just give me a quick confirmation that you still hear me. I get concerned when there's no questions. I think maybe, okay, great, everyone still hears us. Okay, so let's continue now By the way, I sent out the link to this presentation that I'm looking at. I sent it out in the chat, and I'm going to send it out right now as well. It's also going to be in those of you viewing the recording, it's going to be in the description of the YouTube recording. So let's continue. And now we're going to go to the system assigned blocks. Now, the system assigned blocks are blocks that automatically get attributed to a patron depending on various activities of the patron. When I say activities, I mean, does he or she have the maximum number of loans or the maximum number of overdue items or hold requests, etc. So let's see here. System assigned blocks. So we have system assigned loan limits, and then we have patron limits. Now, loan limits is a type of patron limit. However, loan limits has its own table because it's done with rules. And the loan limits, also like the user block description and the user block definitions, are under the patron configuration. So let's go to the loan limits. Now, Anna is an alumni. So let's play around with the user group alumni. We can do it by various parameters. We can do it by library, the library of the item. We'll see other parameters, but let's do it user group alumni. Okay. And let's actually loan something now to Anna so that we'll already have one loan. And then if we say one loaners are maximum and we try to loan another one, it shouldn't allow us. So let's loan something to her. There shouldn't be a block now because we removed the block. Okay, one loan 4489897 is loaned. There it is. So this one here is already loaned. Okay, let's go now to the configuration and to loan limits. So here we are under patron configurations again. These are the ones we looked at last time. Now we're going to loan limits. And let's add a new one. Now these, like all of the rules in Alma, anytime there's rules, there's fulfillment unit rules. We saw a few weeks ago patron waitlist for digital rules. The rules are always read top to bottom. As soon as there's a match, it stops. So we're going to put ours up on top just to make sure something else isn't catching it. So we'll add rule. Let's call this user group alumni can loan maximum one item. Give it the same description and add parameter. So these are the different parameters we can use as our loan limits: library, location, material type, item policy, and user group. And we'll say the user group equals alumni. Add parameter. And let's say alumni are only allowed to loan one item. So now we've made a rule. User group alumni can loan one item. I'm going to move that one to the top. That way we're sure it'll be caught, because, for example, one of these, even though it says faculty and says reference books, we don't know what the actual definition is in there. So to be sure, ours will be the first one to catch a user group alumni. We've got it now on top. Okay, everything's good. Let's go take a look one more time at that. Patron configurations. Oh, we got to go back to the configuration, up to the configuration, fulfillment, and loan limits. And here it is. User group alumni can loan one. That's the one we made right now. Let's go take a look at the PowerPoint. Just make sure we covered everything. Loan limits. We went into the loan limits table here. We made a definition here. We did it by undergraduate student can loan to. And then we saw it in the table. Now, we also have system assigned patron limits. But before we get to the system assigned patron limits, let's test this system assigned loan limit. So we already know that Anna is a alumni user group. And we also already know that Anna has one item on loan. So if we try to loan now another item, what's going to happen? We'll take this and we'll go to Fulfillment, Manage Patron Services. Loan. And she's blocked. Item cannot be loaned due to loan limit rules. So it worked. She already has one on loan, can't loan another one. Now this is a system assigned because we didn't go into her patron card, still called a patron card after all these years, a card. Which we don't see any blocks here in the blocks tab. We didn't do add block and say she can only loan one item. It's system assigned because the system saw that she already has one item on loan and there's no way to make another loan because that would go over the maximum. So that's the loan limits. Let's just stop and look at the chat, see if there's any questions on that. Someone asked if the code ID can be letters. Yes, it can. The code ID of the tables I've been showing, I've been making them numeric. You can make them letters. I prefer numbers. Okay. Next. Now the patron limits. Back to the PowerPoint. System assigned patron limits. So other than the loan limits, all of the other limits are in one table. And let's take a look. So we'll say configuration, fulfillment, and patron configurations, now patron limits. So here we have the limit of how much cash can a patron owe. This is units of whatever currency they're using. I've got euro on this environment. How many overdues can the patron have before they're blocked? How many bookings? How many maximum overdue recalls are they allowed? How many digitization requests and how many physical item requests? Let's say that alumni, it already says, but let's delete this and add. So let's add now, add row. So we're going to say user group alumni can have a maximum cash of 40 euro. One overdue, one booking, one overdue recall, one digitization request, and one physical item request. And here we go. User group alumni, maximum cash they can have is 40. Save. Here there's no meaning to the order of the, let's go back in, to the order of the rows because it's checking just the user group. Let's go take a look at that again, patron limits. So it's looking for the user group. Says if it's alumni, here's the limits. 40 is our maximum cash. So let's now just say we said alumni have maximum cash limit of 40. 40 whatevers. Dollars, euros, pounds, shekels, dinars. Okay. Now, let's go back to Anna. And let's return what Anna already has, because we already saw that the limit of the number of items works. We tried to loan a second one, it didn't work. So we don't want that block to occur now. Now we want the block of the maximum cash. So I'll return this. We'll confirm that she can still loan. Everything's good. So now she should be able to loan. She's no longer at her maximum. Ah, human error. Another human error, as opposed to a possible Alma error. There we go, Anna. Loan. Everything's good. Now we're going to return it. And then we're going to use the new block. Return items. And we're all set. Now let's go to this patron. And let's say this patron add a finer fee. Let's say she's got a damaged item fine for 41 shekels, or 41 euro in this case. Euro. On this item. Spilled coffee on the front cover. Okay, so she's got a damaged item fee now for spilling coffee on the front cover of the item she was loaning. Now if we try to loan something to her, let's save. We already see she's got the block. But let's just do done and do it as if we didn't already know. Fulfillment, managed patron services. And cash limit of 40 euro exceeded. Your user has 41 euro. Okay, so we successfully made two system defined blocks. We made one that said the user can have up to one loan. When we tried to loan the second, there was a block. Then we said the user is allowed maximum 40 euro. We gave her a fine of 41 euro, and now she's blocked. We covered everything quite quickly because there were no real comments. Let's see. Oh, now we have a couple of comments. Great. Someone asked, can the loan limits be applied to multiple locations? So you can restrict the number of loans for one location, but allow them to still loan from others. Yes, it is possible to make loan limits based on multiple locations. Oh, I'm not sure if you mean combinations of multiple locations. For example, 5 altogether, 2 from the reference location, 3 from the open stacks. I'll show you what we can do. You can do it by locations. Let's go back to the configuration. Let me first get out of here. And configuration. Let me just put this question out in the public here. With no one's name, you can ask anything you want, everyone. No one will know who you are. So this is the question. Can the loan limits be applied to multiple locations? Let's go take a look. So we're in configuration again. We're in fulfillment. We're in patron configurations. As soon as I find patron, there we are. And loan limits. So I could say, for example, in fact, there's one right here. But let's make a new one. It'll be more fun. I could say add parameter, location. If I say is in list, and I say, for example, art library, the ballet music collection, and the art library music theses, save. Oh, I got to fill this in first. Sorry about that. Theses and ballet 5 loans. So now I'm doing a combination of two locations together, what their total is going to be in my art library. Add parameter. Okay, so location in list is art library. Let me get rid of this thing. Art library ballet music collection and art library music thesis collection. I could also choose locations from another library. And add. Loan limit 5. So this means a total of 5 loans from those locations combined. Let me see. I hope that answered your question. Let's go on. If you have a limit of 10 digitizations per semester, does the system automatically go back to 0 for the start of the new semester? This is active digitization requests. Until the digitization, let me make sure I understand what you're asking. First of all, I'll put it out here. And then let's look at the limitations and then we'll describe it. I assume you meant here digitizations. So if we come here to loan limits, patron limits. So we're still in the configuration and patron configurations, patron limits. This is maximum digitization requests that aren't closed. Once the digitization request is all done, it's not part of the whole group here. This does not go by any period of time. It's all together. How many active ones do they have? Okay. Back to the chat. What happens when a patron has multiple types of block, both a system and a librarian? Either one will take effect. I could take our patron now, Anna. Let me put this one out here so everyone sees. When the patron has multiple blocks, if one of them meets the criteria of the block, then he or she will be blocked. For example, if we take Anna and we can say here, edit, we'll give her a system assigned block. Didn't attend today's webinar. And she still has the 41 euro fine for spilling coffee on Sheryl Sandberg's book that she loaned. So now if we try to loan to her, I assume this is what you mean, because now she has both a system, which is by the 41 euro, and librarian, which is because she didn't attend today's webinar. I don't see her in the participants. Maybe she's here. And we try to loan to her. Back to Alma. Fulfillment, manage patron services. Both of the blocks we got. Number one, she didn't attend the webinar today. And number two, she owes 41 euro. So that's what happens when a user has both types of blocks. Let me go back into the chat. Okay, we block for overdue recall, but once overdue recall is billed and item is lost, the block disappears. Yes, that's true, because like I said, all of these blocks are for active ones, like active digitization requests. Let me put this out here. We block for overdue recall, but once the overdue recall is billed and item is lost, the block disappears. Yep, because there's no more overdue recall. We would like to still have a block on lost overdue recalled items. I'm not aware of a way to do that after it's lost and overdue recalled. You could make a manual one and apply it. But within the patron limits that we have built in here, back to the configuration, in the patron, I'm just going to go this way, it's a lot faster. Patron limits, it's these here. And these are, like we said, active. Okay, and there isn't one here for lost. Let's go back to the chat. When you bill a patron for the damaged item and put the barcode of the item in the note, does it automatically also mark the item damaged in the item record and make it non-circ? No, it does not. Okay, what I did here for Anna, it's not really related to our specific session here, but we have some time to chat. Here, this fine and fee that I made does not make the item overdue. It's just for general knowledge. Where I said she spilled coffee on it and I gave it a barcode, it does not make the item unloanable. Let me just confirm that. Actually, I think she's got it on loan right now, but let's take a look. Physical items, barcode, item in place. I can loan this. Let's make sure. Fulfillment, manage patron services, and let's take Anna and override. Yep, does not make it unloanable. Next, chat. How would you set up 5 for each? 5 for each. I could put 5 in all of the limits. If we come back here to patron limits, I could just come along and make them all 5. 5, 5, 5. I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but that would make all of these limited to 5. Got it, thank you. Okay. Do any of the blocks prevent the purging of the user account? Very interesting. I believe they do. I don't want to get into the whole subject of the purging. It's not just, like many things in Alma. It's not yes, no, and do an input file and click OK. It's more involved, the whole purging. But if I were to take Anna right now, let's not take Anna because I use her for many things, but let's give one of those blocks. First of all, when a patron owes money, there's a whole way you have to waive it before you can delete. Actually, I will take Anna because I'm pretty confident it's going to tell me that she owes money. You need to waive the block. Anna N. Okay. Okay. So she's got a fine. I would need to waive the fine. She has a loan, so I can't delete. And this is just something else. She's got a purchase request, a whole nother story. So let's put it this way. There are a lot of safety features in there that you can't delete or purge a user when they have blocks or other things as we see here. Let's go back. Maybe we'll do a session just on the purge, but that's a story all unto itself. Oh, someone asks here. Let me go back into the person who asked about the 5 blocks. Sorry, I meant 5 from each of the chosen libraries. Oh, you could do 5 from each of the chosen libraries, but you need to make 5 rules, which is no big deal. You could come and say, back to the configuration, back to the fulfillment, back to the loan limits. So you could say here, add rule 5 limit, I'll just say A in case I've already got a 5 limit in there. So I can say add parameter if library equals art library, the loan limit is 5. I didn't say add parameter here. Save 5 limit art. Then I can make another one, add rule, and say 5 limit engineering, and then add a parameter here where the library equals engineering library, add parameter 5, and then I could do it for all of my libraries or whichever ones I want. Now there's a limit of 5 items can be loaned at a time from the art library, 5 items at a time can be loaned from the engineering library. And then I could do it for the other libraries as well. Back to the chat. I don't see any others here. Anyone else have any other questions or comments? Okay, so with that, we'll close. We will, as usual, be posting this recording to our education and webinar page, as well as to our YouTube channel, excuse me, and be sending a message out to the Alma list that has been posted. And thanks for joining, and we hope to see you in all the rest of our sessions. Have a nice day.